Okay. Welcome to the Somerville Job Creation and Retention Trust meeting of June 7th, 2023. My name is Colleen Moran, and I am a managing co-trustee of the Job Creation and Retention Trust. And I call this meeting to order at 6:11 p.m. On March 29th, 2023, Governor Healy signed into law a supplemental budget bill, which extends the temporary provisions pertaining to the open meeting law to March 31, 2025. This extension allows public bodies to continue holding meetings remotely without a quorum of the public body physically present at a meeting location, and to provide adequate alternative success to remote meetings. This session will be recorded and it will be a public record. I will now ask the board members to confirm they are in attendance in alphabetical order. Thomas Bent.
Present.
Vicky Coitz.
Present.
Silvana Dinka. Not yet. Matt McLaughlin. Not yet. Colleen Moran, present. Rachel Annika Van Eaton.
Present.
And Rand Wilson. We can't hear you again, Rand, but you're indicating present. We see you. All right, we have a quorum. I will now ask city staff to present a few house rules about using the technology.
Thank you, Colleen. As you all know, my name is William Blackmer. I'm the Workforce Development Coordinator and serve as staff to the Job Creation and Retention Trust. When an agenda item is being presented, presentation materials received ahead of time will be displayed on the screen. When the chair asks for public comment, public may use the raise hand function if you would like to speak, and you will be unmuted one by one and given 2 minutes to speak. Trust members, all votes must be roll call votes with a motion and a second. The chair will call on each board member for a yes, no vote in alphabetical order. Please note that any questions or comments you type into the questions or chat box in the control panel of your screen will be part of the public record in accordance with open meeting law. So I will pass it back to Colleen for the first agenda item. And yes, we can hear you, Annika. So thanks for joining us by phone.
Okay, so first off, we have the review and approval of the March 1st meeting minutes. Attached to the meeting materials was a draft of the meeting minutes for our last meeting on May 3rd. Oh, sorry about the March 1, May 3rd. Are there any edits or revisions to be made before approval? No, okay. I will do the roll call. Thomas Bent.
I recuse myself because I was not there.
Okay. Vicky Coitz.
Approve.
Silvana Dinka, not here. Matt McLaughlin, not here. Colleen Moran, approve. Rachel Nadkarni.
I'll also abstain since I wasn't there.
Annika Van Eaton.
Approve.
And Rand Wilson.
Yes. Oh, we could hear you.
Yeah, it's the in and out Rand day. All right, moving to the next item. William will present this one. It's around reviewing received and estimated linkage fees for 2023.
Great, thank you, Colleen. So since our, let me pull up the document. Okay, so since our last meeting, the trust received over $410,000 in early May. That's indicated here, which brings the current balance of uncommitted funds to over 1.1 million. We still do have approximately 1.3 million, which may be received within this calendar year, with the 339,000 the most likely to be received in the next 3 months. So please let me know if you have any questions about these figures.
No questions here.
Looks good.
Great, then I will move us to the next item on the agenda to review the current status of the investment priorities. So the trust is continuing to address the investment priorities that were voted on this past fall. Several of the priorities will be addressed later in tonight's agenda. There will be votes that are proposed in relation to priorities 2, 3, and 4, which are the coordination and data collection staff position, the industry-specific job training programs, and the Somerville Good Municipal Jobs Training Program. And we will also be discussing updates on priority 6, which is the mental health, resilience, and trauma training for adult education and workforce development organizations. And so far, funding has not yet been obligated for that priority. So I will open it up for any questions that anyone has on the priority list.
Looks good. So no questions. We can move to the update from the Mental Health, Resilience, and Trauma Training for Adult Education and Workforce Development Organizations Subcommittee, which is priority 6 from our list. And I'm happy to report on that. Let me just find it on my computer. There we are. Okay. So William sent everybody the items to take a look at earlier. Oh, hang on one second. I had it open, I had it written up, and now, oops, I know where it is. There we go. Okay. On the sent you the RFP draft, but just to kind of walk through what's on there. So this item is related to the ongoing challenges that have been faced by adult learners, job seekers, and the staff who support them, which I think is a really interesting nuance to this, and all related to the kind of culture at large between the pandemic, all the losses associated to that, the hate and racial injustice that has been happening, resulting in rates of trauma and mental health challenges for so many people, especially communities of color, who represent the overwhelming majority of participants in Somerville's adult education and job training programs. So this proposal is to address those issues. And so we're looking to seek a provider to deliver mental health, resilience, trauma, and trauma-informed approaches training for adult education and workforce development organizations that serve Somerville residents. The goals of this program is to better equip local workforce development and adult education professionals to serve their program participants. So you can see these, there's 4 bullet points that are on the criteria listing on the proposal. We're looking to have an immersive multi-session curriculum at least 10 hours long during typical weekday work hours, looking to serve an estimated 30 to 60 participants, and including resources for continued learning and support. So other notes are the training we want to make available beyond any organizations receiving funds from the JCRT. So any organizations that serve Somerville residents could participate. The provider will prepare a summary and overview of their training that can readily be shared with training organizations. So there's some materials to share. Like I mentioned in the bullet about sharing the resources at the end of the session, and looking not to exceed overall $100,000 for the price. So we wanted to present this to you, get some thoughts. If you want to take some time to read it over, William had sent it out in copy. So any thoughts that you have, any feedback, and we'll look to vote on this next month. And I see a hand from Rand.
Program A made me think that there was supposed to be a program B. When I read it, I was just curious why we use that framework.
Yeah, thanks for asking, Rand. So I wrote this off of one of our templates, and the hope is that this would potentially, if appropriate, be part of an RFP that does have a couple different program types in it. So if it is a standalone RFP, then the program A language will be taken out.
And just a second question while I have the floor. Give me a sense of how this ties into people are traumatized by, let's say, the pandemic, and they've lost their jobs. What is it we're going to be doing to help them? Or are we just helping the people that are helping those people? It seemed like we were helping the people that were going to help people who are traumatized. I don't know. I was a little.
It's actually it's a three-prong listing. So it's the learners, the job seekers, and the staff who support them who would be able to participate. So which that the part about having the staff I think is unique, that it's not just participant focused but also for the staff too. So yep.
And how many people are potential beneficiaries of, let's say we got a good RFP from one of the providers, and it says that 30 to 60 participants is sort of what you're thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
Are there that many people providing? Well, not all of them would be workforce development professionals. Some of them would be learners in schools. Yep. Some of them would be people that are job seekers. So there's definitely a big enough pool to expend the money on. Is that
yep.
right? Okay.
This is Annika. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. I guess let me know if my video comes on. I can't find the setting to do that, so I'll try not to be complicated. Colleen, I want to, as a fellow subcommittee member, offer a clarification and give a question. Yeah. So my understanding of this is that we were targeting it directly to staff of the job training organizations and of the providers, that the focus was going to be on the people who have been working with job seekers through the course of the pandemic, and so are both experiencing burnout themselves and are working with folks who have been having a really hard time. I think the idea being that, like, what we're hearing from the field is that, like, folks doing trainings and doing job navigation for job seekers have had a lot of clients, right? A lot of folks lost their job in the beginning of the recession and are burning out, which means that they're less able to support job seekers, both if they are no longer working for the training provider and or specifically if they're still there, but they're like for the last 3 years. So I just want to clarify, my understanding of this RFP is that it's specifically for participants of the training providers. And I think that's something that I want us to be clear on before this goes out. So if
Yes.
anyone else here has, William, I'm seeing you nod.
Yep. Yes, thank you for that clarification. It's in the activity section on the proposal. So, yep, where it's clearer than the top. Yep.
Thanks. And then
Thank you.
Rand, to your question, I'll just say, like, I used to work for Boston's Workforce Development Board, and we had a lot of staff who worked directly with students or job seekers. And the experiences that I saw of these teams of staff is that it's, I think, as you know, everyone on this board knows, it's not just as straightforward as like helping them fill out a resume and then send in job applications. Like, folks kind of bring their whole selves to this experience, and some of their personal experiences can come up, or some of the ways that they're sort of handling the interviews or navigating the interviews. And so then these job training providers or job seekers or what am I trying to say? Career navigation support folks are like engaging with folks on a lot of different levels. And so I think the idea of this training is to train those providers in better being able to engage with these job seekers on the levels that they're operating on. Like, there's ways to have a really empathetic, solutions-oriented conversation with a client if they're bringing like a lot of frustration or a lot of stress or just like a myriad of things that are on their plate. And so I think the idea here is to upskill folks who are doing a lot of work, both for career navigation, for training, for like social worker adjacent type things, and making sure that they have the tools to support folks who, like I said, have a lot going on.
Rand.
I'm on a roll here, so you got me completely convinced. Last question is, the kind of organization that could help the provider become a more empathetic and compassionate and helpful guide to a job. The agency that could do that training is different than the agency that would be working with, say, students or the unemployed. It's a totally different kind of a group. So it's not clear to me that the RFP really outlines that, you don't have to do all three. You need to demonstrate that you could do one of these things well. And that's my last and final offer.
Great input. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Rand, for those comments and questions. Looking at the text again, it does seem like it could be helpful to make it more specific about who this is targeting. So I think that that's a good edit and note for our draft.
I'm making notes right this minute.
Comment.
Right.
Sorry, I had an Outlook email up to myself. Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, I have some of the same questions that Rand had, but also, so basically this is to train the trainers. So the question I have is, are we going to require anybody that's doing training for us to undergo this program? Because to me, if it's some are and some aren't, we really serving, the public, Plus, you know, 10-hour training is not going to give anyone a degree in, you know, mental health assistance, right? So to me, if, you know, depending on like the level of issue that a person may be having, hopefully what we would be doing is referring them to a mental health provider, correct? You know, so I think it's tricky, you know, what we're trying to do here. And I think, you know, just if we're going to do this, I would think it would almost be a requirement that anyone that we're doing training, you know, that's doing training for us would have to undergo this training. And so I just wanted to see what people thought about that. And then, you know, will we have a mental health provider that we can refer people to? You know, like, you know, Cambridge Health Alliance does quite a bit of this type of work. You know, so, you know, just some thoughts on that. See what the committee thought on that.
Rachel, did you have a comment to go with that?
Yeah, my gut on that, Tom, is that maybe this should be, since this is the first time doing this, maybe this is a pilot before we do a requirement. Just since we don't know how it's going to go and if we're going to be, how useful it's going to be, right? I think I could see different formats, right? So I was thinking, like, depending on how this comes in, I could see it being, we might get someone who says, we'll offer the program, and then folks can send people from across different organizations to our 10-hour training. And it's like they're getting seats in the training. But I could also see it being a format where it's more like the provider of the mental health services training is going to each of these organizations, right? And I think it's gonna, like, it'll be interesting to see what we get. And I feel like we need to see a little bit, at least in my opinion, we might need to see a little bit more before it's a requirement.
Yeah, I think the way this is written up now would need to be tightened up. You know, right now it's just kind of open. I think you have to decide on what the pilot's going to be and whether or not you would want to support it up to $100,000 for a pilot. You know, so if a pilot's going to be maybe to, again, I think I'd need to see more information and more, like, I mean, I think this is overall a good idea, but I just think I just need more on this one, so before I can make a decision, I think. And on the pilot, if it is going to be a pilot, I don't know if I want to spend $100,000 on a pilot. You know,
Agree.
so I think we got to do a little bit more thought process on this before we make a decision.
Hey, Tom, this is Annika. I appreciate your suggestion of considering if we should require our training providers to participate in this and thinking about how we would specify the universe of training providers who are enrolled. And I feel like William and Colleen, that's a good thing to come back in our next subcommittee meeting, is to sort of think through the logistics of that, or if it would be something that we would have needed to write into our grants or our RFPs with those providers already, or if it's something we could require going forward. I just think this would be a good thing to noodle through, and so I appreciate you bringing it up, Todd.
Yeah. Great points.
Oh, by the way, Matt got back to me and said he cannot make it tonight. He's at a meeting and the city's falling apart. So whatever that means.
Well, I hope he's on the new walkway. I saw that he was quoted in the article in the Globe about opening up the new extension to the pedestrian walkway.
That's supposed to be opening up. I don't know if it opened up today or not.
Rachel?
I was going to just throw in just a very small thing as you guys are noodling over edits to this. It might be worth putting in what Tom said, this is the train the trainers, in terms of like clarifying that description.
Yeah.
I thought that phrasing was nice.
Yeah, I agree, Rachel.
Yeah.
And Tom, suggestion.
The other thing I think that might be worth noodling on as well is, if it doesn't make sense to put this in a larger RFP with other items because of that nature, right? Because it's a different type of organization that's going to respond. does it want to actually be called out separately and have an opportunity to sort of be more visible as a heading on its own than being in a larger RFP with workforce trainings?
So Rachel, on that, so would you include in the RFP, so putting on an RFP to mental health providers to offer assistance to any citizens who are, in the Jobs Trust training program, that type of thing? I think training the trainers is good. It's funny, in construction, we have a lot of this kind of stuff. We have to have like there's different things that certain people have to be certified in, and then they can train, the people that, work under them, right? But here, I'm just worried about with 10 hours, if we're training a trainer, they're still not really qualified to give mental health assistance. So that's where I think this gets a little tricky. I think if they're trained to spot, areas that people are having issues, and again, referring them to that provider, I don't think anybody after 10 hours is going to be qualified to give mental health advice. That's where I'm a little concerned about this. So that's why I think I like your idea if you add in to the RFP, that we obviously we have to get a provider that'll help provide service. So then you train the trainer to spot some of the warning signs or flags, right, that they might see when they're interviewing people or people coming to them about jobs, or talking about their frustrations or whatever. Then they can say, hey, let's refer you over to so and so, and we're paying for that. That might be, if they're in the program. I'm just trying to feel it out, like play it out, a little bit.
Yeah, this is all great. I'm capturing all these notes for the.
I think Rachel's got her hand up.
And Rachel?
So the thought, when I originally read it, and maybe I'm trying to remember back to some of the previous conversations from before I was out, that some of this is also just about strengthening the resilience of the providers themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very different thing than sort of being in a referral capacity, right? I think there's sort of like it's a different thing that we would be looking for, right? I think if you're focusing on the providers and saying, we know this is a lot that you are absorbing from the folks that you work with, and that could take its toll and make it difficult for you to continue. Like that might you be able to accomplish in the 10 hours, right? That like sort of supporting that person and saying, we see you, we see that this is a thing that could affect your own mental health. How do we make sure that you're resilient to be able to keep going in this work because we need you? That might be, I feel like that's a narrower focus than the like, we want you to be able to be a mental health referrer or like, I feel like it's a broader training potentially, right? What Tom, I think what your understanding of it and maybe mine is slightly different.
Yeah. So we can clarify the language in this so that it's very clear which direction it's heading into. But Rachel, I see it more going your way than trying to train people to be able to provide the support. It's more about supporting the folks who are doing the work.
Well, that's where, and I think Rand, brought it up too, that's where this is a little confusing right now. Has anyone polled any of the providers that we have now to see if this is something that they think they would be interested in?
So without having dedicated funding to it, I've spoken about it in kind of a more abstract term. But I would say that definitely the providers we work with have very different levels of resources. So for example, some of the training providers that we work with are part of organizations that have a national network, that this might be something that they're already, thinking about to some extent, whereas other organizations really don't have the resources for this right now and are struggling to hold on to staff, are struggling to recruit staff. And I think this is a major part of that challenge that they're facing. So I think as we were trying to figure out what exactly this program looked like, there could be potential then to go back to our partners and see, what the interest level is at. That's something I could do. I just didn't want to do that, before we knew if this was something that we were moving forward with.
I would say high level, so William, what I'm hearing you and what we've talked about in the subcommittee is that staff at the organizations who do trainings feel overwhelmed and are fried and have a lot going on, which is what this is meant to address. I would also, this has been a good conversation and I appreciate it. I am calling from a roadside, and so I'm wondering if there's if folks have like some really specific points that haven't already been addressed. I think it would be really awesome for you to bring those up so that the subcommittee can consider it. If you feel like all of our points that you've brought up are the ones that you want the subcommittee to noodle on, I feel like we've got some really good material from this feedback from the board around clarity of target audience, clarity of what the staff who participate in this training should be able to do afterwards. And then thinking about sort of making this more, I guess, specific about the content is supposed to be covered, or some of the things that I'm hearing from folks that the subcommittee should delve back into and write up.
Just one thing on that, and this might piggyback off of what Rachel was saying earlier. I could see this, once we figure out what we're doing with this, that this could be something that, so we're talking about these service providers that are having, employees that are overwhelmed and all that, right? So we have hundreds of small businesses in the city that are in the same boat, trying to deal with their employees, right? Would it be something, again, once we kind of figured out the parameters in this and what the overall goal would be, I could see this morphing into a program to help small businesses help provide, some assistance or whatever. And then ultimately, to be able to refer to a provider. So that's where I could see this going, I think it could be really good. So that's just another step that it could take later on.
Cool. Thanks for that thought, Tom. I appreciate that.
Yeah, all of your all this feedback is really helpful to be able to help us like shape this into a stronger RFP and explanation to all of you too of what this will all be about.
You, Colleen, is Partners doing anything for employees on something like this?
Well, we have an employee assistance program that people can go to, and they've actually done a couple different things with a couple apps that they've made available to people to be able to get, support through a couple different meditation spaces and more direct, like therapist kind of things online.
That's good. No, it's good to know because, it's funny. This hit home with us a week ago. We had an employee that, came into the office, was very distraught over nothing about work. It was more about what was going on at home and things like that. And luckily, Local 103 has a great modern assistance program. And we virtually, well, no, we didn't virtually. We actually drove him back down to the Union Hall to make sure he was going to sit down, and because we were actually worried about him, whether or not he was going to hurt himself. So, the feeling I had was he wasn't going to go there on his own, so we made sure we got him there. And then they took over from there, and we've gotten an update, and we're working with him. He's been with us a long time, and so it's funny, this stuff can just come up like that, and
yeah,
so that's just why I didn't want it to come off like I was against the program. It was more like, what can we do to make this better,
Oh, absolutely appreciate it. It's all clarification, which is awesome. But yeah, I think we're all caring a lot more than we realize. And then the one thing that's the straw that breaks the camel's back is, maybe big, maybe small, and then,
it just happens.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just wanted to let folks know I've been uncharacteristically quiet because this is the type of work my organization does, and I don't want to influence the RFP, so I haven't been participating in the conversation. I basically recused myself, but I just wanted to explain that to my colleagues.
Thank you.
Yep.
So is there any more thoughts or feedback? This has all been great. Thank you very much. We'll be back to see you in July on this. And we can move now to obligation votes. I suspect that William has a display for us to all see.
Yes, sorry, I was just catching
Yes,
up
oh,
on.
that's okay. No, you had that look on your face like, I'm looking. So, yeah.
No problem. Yes, let me bring up the memo that was sent out. So just a moment. All right, so I hope you've had the opportunity to take a look at this memo. The first half of it was pretty much just repeating information from the memo for the May meeting. Unfortunately, we were not able to take the 2 obligation votes, so those are both proposed again for tonight. The first of those votes is the obligation of $177,542 for the coordination and data collection staff role to be distributed from FY25 through FY28. So those numbers are seen on the memo as well, those calculations. I'll just review the different votes on here, and then we can take some discussion on those. So the second obligation vote that we have on here is for obligating $400,000 to the Good Municipal Jobs Training Initiative. There's a little bit of an update on here following the support from the City of Somerville Human Resources team on this initiative, and to explain that if this obligation is made, we would be hosting a pre-bid conference to explain the intentions of the RFP for prospective proposers. So actually, I will pause there and see if we have any questions on either of the obligation votes before a motion is made. And then once we've addressed both of those votes, we will move on to the second half of the votes that are no cost extension votes that are detailed later in the memo. So I'd open up if there's any questions regarding the obligation votes listed on the agenda.
On item B, the Good Municipal Jobs Training Initiative, do we have any idea who that RFP is going to be going out to? Other than I assume it's going to go out to the city, but I'm not sure what department that would be going to. And will it be going out to anybody else?
Yeah, it should go out to our regular funder provider list. Like a year ago, this idea actually came up from sort of a group of folks who included union members, training providers in Somerville. So I think that, it'll probably need to be a response from a partnership, but it should definitely include, folks who we've been, the types of folks that we've been partnering with and funding in terms of training providers. But I'd also like to see worker voice in this as well.
So Vicki, because it's been a while, since we reviewed this, because what I'm seeing here is more like soft skill types, things that are here. I'm assuming there would be some hard skills that we would be looking at. Like I know for a fact that they've done some of this, not through us, but up at the high school. The DPW had a request to train some people to be welders. So the metal fab shop, stepped up, and the teacher, came in and I think got, a fair amount of DPW work as well, certified as welders. So, I assume that's kind of what we're also looking for. So I was just curious, I'll be really curious when I see the RFP, how it's written and how specific it is about what we're asking for. Because what I'm seeing here, it's more soft skills that I see here. I'm not seeing,
Yeah, this one has dragged out for several months.
It's been a while.
Yeah, we had like a 1.5 page description of this that would be the basis for the RFP, and it included something called the Integrated Education and Training, IET model, which was where it required folks to provide hard skill training and also like adult basic skills, whether it be like basic skills or English language skills, and then wrapped around it would be the soft skills, the career navigation, support, connection to support services. So this is that like kind of intensive, comprehensive model that we've been talking about for a while.
Yeah, and from what I remember too, and it wasn't just like, say DPW type skills, right? It was also, office skills, computer skills. Yeah, I remember all that. I just want to make sure the RFP is very clear about what we're looking for, and so we get the best bang for our buck, and it's over. It'll be interesting because, like you said, it'll probably be through multiple providers. So what we would be looking for as a provider that would kind of bring them all under one umbrella, right? Okay. Just want to kind of refresh my memory on it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And just for the record, I mean, William, we will be using that like 1.5 page thing that we worked on over several months as the core for the RFP, right?
Yes, I am trying to display it on my screen right now, but just to read a little bit of the text, proposals should include integrated education and training programs in one or both of the 2 occupational clusters that were discussed. So that's technical training in entry-level office skills, and then technical training in licensing and certifications that focus on municipal trade roles. So definitely the technical training, and then the wraparound supports, social service supports, the career navigation supports, the opportunities to directly connect to work via job shadowing, etc. Continued support for at least 6 months on job retention, and the inclusion of the stipend as well. So we're looking for this to be very comprehensive, as Vicki said, having an umbrella of services, one organization taking the lead, and then working as a group to deliver all of these services together.
And this is one where I think it'll be really important to have a nice, a good bidders conference that explains the model and what we're looking for and what it could look like and what it's looked like around the country in order to help, the potential proposers understand more clearly what we're looking for.
What I was thinking on, B here, the bottom bullet, you have and other in-demand skills. I think we need to be more specific as to what the city's looking for. and those type of hard skills, so if it's, again, welding certificates or, backhoe operators or, whatever it is. Because I would assume that you've reached out to DPW and you've asked them, hey, what are the things that people that are applying for positions here are lacking, so that we could offer them the training so that they could get the jobs, Because it's amazing, people will send a resume for something that they're not qualified at all at. But if they're interested in, will we be able to have the ability here to actually help them to get that training or certification?
All right. Do we want to move to vote?
Do you need to do these one at a time, Colleen?
Yes, I will be, but I just wanted to check, make sure everybody's good. And William, you're ready for vote?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
And do we
can
need a
make the
motion?
Yeah,
That's right.
I move. I move to obligate $177,542 to, I'm going to start with the coordination and data collection staff role to be distributed from fiscal year 25 to fiscal year 28.
This is second.
All right. Moving through, Thomas Bent,
Yes.
Vicky Coitz,
Yes.
Silvana Dinka absent, Matt McLaughlin absent, Colleen Moran, yes, Rachel Ned Carney,
Yes.
Annika Van Eaton,
Yes.
and Rand Wilson.
Yes,
Terrific.
I'm excited about this one.
Me too.
I'm really eager to see how we get, who we can attract to do this work.
So that was for to fund William. Now,
Oh,
You want to make the motion on this one, Rand? The good
yeah,
municipal.
Rand, you should make the motion for the good municipal jobs one. Just read it off of the agenda.
oh, well, I'm a little confused. I need that mental health help that you're talking about. Can you-
I can
I'm
help you.
traumatized.
Call me.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Oh, boy.
All right, I'll make the motion on the next one.
So read 5B.
Yes.
Who's going to read it? Not me.
You.
You have
Oh.
to.
That's your motion.
Let it fly, Rand.
This meeting is awesome.
So I make a motion to obligate the JCRT to fund at the level of $400,000 a good municipal jobs training initiative, which I spoke very highly of at the wrong time, but this is something that evolved from a conversation that we started a year and a half or so ago, and I was on the subcommittee for it, and I'm just, make a motion to pass that funding level for this initiative.
I second it and
Second.
applaud Rand's excitement.
Yes. And I think it's going to be really interesting. Thomas Bent,
Yes.
Vicky Coitz,
Yes.
Silvana Dinka absent, Matt McLaughlin absent, Colleen Moran, yes, Rachel Ned Carney,
Yes.
Annika Van Eaton,
Yes.
and Rand Wilson.
I made the motion. Yes.
Thank you very much. All right, now we will move along to our extension votes, which are no cost extension votes.
Yes, and I'll just provide a little bit of explanation on this as indicated in the memo. So at At last month's meeting, the trust did take a no cost extension vote on Just to Start's 2022-2023 grant that expired in March. However, I had a slight oversight in realizing that the end date of this contract could not extend beyond July 31st, since Just to Start had responded to the initial 2020 RFP, and July 31st marks 3 years of work in response to that RFP. So I am putting on this memo that Just to Start is seeking the no cost extension through July 31st, 2023 to continue working with their 2022 graduates on job placement and retention. The second no cost extension vote that is proposed is to approve a no cost extension for SCALE, Somerville Center for Adult Learning Experiences, through December. And that would be for SCALE to gain additional enrollments and continue working with their existing HiSET students toward program completion and next career steps. As indicated on the memo, delays in executing this city-to-city or this internal city agreement, as well as hiring challenges on SCALE's end, resulted in delays in their recruitment for their 2022-2023 academic year. So they are seeking this no cost extension to continue running their programming for an extra semester to increase the enrollment and completion results of their program. So I'm happy to take any questions or open up the floor for any discussion, and then we will seek a motion on the items.
William, sorry, I don't mean to throw a wrench into everything, but I'm just looking at the minutes that we approved earlier in this meeting. And at the last meeting, we did vote to approve a no cost extension for Just to Start through September 30th, 2023. So is that for their first grant? And then this is to extend their second grant?
So thanks for the question, Vicki. So this would be to completely replace or nullify the no cost extension from last month.
That's what you were saying about that. Yep. Okay. All right, well, if that's the case, then I move to approve a no cost extension for Just to Start through July 31st, 2023.
I'll second that.
Okay. And we'll do the roll call vote. Thomas Bent.
Yes.
Vicki Coitz.
Yes.
Silvana Dinka absent. Matt McLaughlin absent. Colleen Moran, yes. Rachel Nadkarni.
Yes.
Annika Van Eaton.
Yes.
And Rand Wilson.
Yes.
This is for the extension of, yes, okay. And if we could have a motion for the SCALE extension? If there's no questions?
I'll make the motion for a no cost extension through December 30th, 2023 to gain additional enrollments and continue working with existing HiSET students towards program completion and next career steps for SCALE.
I'll second.
Thank you. And we'll do the roll call vote. Thomas Bent.
Yes.
Vicki Coitz.
Yes.
Savannah Dinka, absent. Matt McLaughlin, absent. Colleen Moran, yes. Rachel Ned Carney,
Yes.
Annika Van Eaton,
Yes.
and Rand Wilson.
Yes.
Terrific. Thank you for all of those motions and seconds and votes. And now we'll look at the upcoming meeting schedule. Our next meeting is by the book scheduled for July 5th, but we're not sure if that's going to work. And so Rand is not looking like it's going to work for him. So do we want to find another date? Does it-
A question, do we need a July meeting?
I think the idea is we'd want to vote on the RFP for the that we just
Yeah.
discussed. Like ideally, we'd want to back the RFP that the board was comfortable with and vote on.
Okay. No, I was just wondering because I didn't know if there was enough to meet on.
Yeah,
As long as that'll be ready. If we could also, Annika, if we could get that ahead of time so that we could see what the proposal is. And that July, with July 4th being on a Tuesday, July 5th, I'm actually on vacation that week, so I would be looking to move it. And I think that's
Yeah.
it'd be a
How's
tough
the
one.
12th?
Yeah.
This is 1 week later, July 12th, work for people.
that would work for me, Sonica.
Yeah.
July 12th is fine for me.
Yep, I can make that work.
Great. Works for William?
Yes.
Okay,
Looks good for me.
great. Thank you, Rand.
Nobody else cared, but
Oh, of
I
course we care.
care. We all care.
You were the first one mentioned. It was a conflict for.
Vicky's big plant cares.
Yes, that's right. Monster cares. I can only do it in virtually though. I will not be able to attend that in person. I don't know if we're having that conversation or not.
I'm also virtual that night.
Good to know.
Me too.
Well,
Okay, and then
since
Then
we're
we
talking about virtual, because I thought a couple of meetings ago, we were all kind of like, yeah, we should start meeting in person. So I was a little surprised even today. And then I saw on the meeting I missed that it was discussed. But, and I know the governor, which I'm still perplexed on, decided to put this out to 2025. I do know with the cities had a kind of a combination of strictly virtual meetings and some public meetings. And I know that a lot of people in the community are a little bit fed up with the virtual meetings. They don't feel like they're being represented properly. It's just not the same meeting, especially when you get into, city items, so we've been getting a lot of pushback from the business community about these virtual meetings. They don't like the format at all. They don't feel like people are getting a chance to speak and to interact. And to be frank, quite frankly, the city has too much control over the meetings and who gets picked and all that. So, to speak. So there's been a lot of issues on that. And I do know, and I heard again the other day that, oh yeah, we're going to be going to Zoom soon. So I don't know when that's happening. We've been hearing that for a while now. So I'd be advocating, to try to get back to in-person meetings at some point, sooner than later. So just my thoughts on that. But that's the feedback that I've been hearing out from even my neighbors across the street. On was a planning board meeting. They were not happy at all that they had to sit in front of a computer for a long time. They wanted to go out there and speak their mind in public. So I think people getting fed up with it. So just a thought.
thank you.
When I see that the city councilors would rather have the virtual meetings, that should be a red flag for you right there. Because they don't have to face anybody, right?
Good firewall,
Yes. Yes.
especially this program. Nobody can figure out how to use it.
Yes. Yeah, they should be careful when they get Zoom. But that's great feedback. Thank you, Tom. And we have
William, you send
August.
out a new invite for that, for the 12th.
Yes, I will send out an invite for the 12th. And just to kind of reiterate how I've been approaching this is, we want to make sure that we have a quorum of trustees that are able to attend in person. So for example, I got responses from 5 trust members that they could come for an in-person meeting today. That would not have reached the quorum needed for the 2 obligation votes. So that's how I was able to kind of make the call for this meeting. It sounds like there's a few members that said they need to attend virtually next time, but I'm ongoing. I'm happy to do my part to try to make those arrangements possible. And I think something we were talking about last year was thinking about our annual meeting, as that's the one that typically gets the most participation from the community. So maybe that could be an opportunity where it doesn't have to be the only opportunity, but it could be a good opportunity to make that happen.
So for the August meeting, that's the one
Yes.
that we often skip. I don't know if there's going to be any business for August. We probably won't be ready to vote on either the Good Jobs, what do we call it now? The Good Municipal Jobs Training Initiative. Because you're gonna have to get the RFP out, you're gonna have to give people time to respond, you're gonna have time to review it. So that doesn't even seem like we'd be able to vote on that until September. And probably the same thing for the mental health piece.
Yes, that'd be definitely too soon for that.
Yeah. So, I'm not the chair anymore. I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't be chiming in this much, but it does seem like we might be able to skip August and go with September.
Yeah, I think let's move July to the 12th, and then I think we can address August as we get a little bit closer, just so that we're not missing any opportunities to make the votes that approve some of this work. So I think that's
Holds on
how I
our
feel.
calendars then.
Yeah.
So August 2nd works for folks.
I'm good to cancel it if it works.
But you can make it if we need it.
Yes, yep.
Same.
Great.
Okay.
And then September 6th will be during that week that we all get hit by that brick wall of everything that comes back once everybody comes back from vacation. So we'll be right in there in stride, so that'll be great.
I won't be in the country that day.
This is Annika. I'll be in California.
Should we think about moving that one?
Yeah.
Mhm.
How's the next week on that one? So that would be what, the 13th?
13th, yeah.
Should be able to make that work.
It works for me.
You too.
Okay.
Annika, I like your summer bookend vacation.
Yeah, I tried. It's a wedding. I think since the quorum part of this is over, I am just going to jump off, folks, and trust that
Great.
you all can vote us out without my vote. But it was good seeing you all.
You too.
Have
Back to vacation.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Did we move September to the 13th?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, so I will send out some updated invites, and then just we can make a call on August as we get a little bit closer. So with that, I think we can move to 8. Colleen, why don't you take it away?
All right. Do we have any additional items that are not reasonably anticipated by the chair? Anything else to add?
Nope.
Rand.
I'm not convinced that we're spending our money wisely and getting a good bang for our buck. Maybe I've brought this up in the past, but I feel like I need to know more about the impact of our work to participate. And I'm not feeling it. I'm not hearing about it. In other words, I mean, I see it when we're in these meetings and stuff, and once in a while we have maybe some numbers or evaluation or something, but I'm never hearing about it in the community. And I tell people I'm on the Jobs Trust Board, and they don't know what that is. And I've never heard anybody say that, oh yeah, my nephew, my cousin, my kids, somebody benefited. Now, I don't talk to that many people. We're, somewhat isolated still, but it just, I'm kind of, we're not getting much publicity in the local papers. We're not, I want to have more impact. Maybe we're not, touting ourselves enough, or maybe we're missing something. But that's just a comment that I would like to see. I'd like to get some help with that. Not tonight.
Rachel.
I think, Rand, to that point, William, I wonder if this is a thing we can work with our providers on, is just asking how they're advertising and doing a reporting out of sort of what their approaches are to getting the word out about the programs, because that might be part of it, is that the programs might be that may be just a helpful piece for us to understand. It's how are they advertising, and is there an opportunity to put in future RFPs to be like, you need to name the JCRT as part of the funding source, and that something that sort of ties that back. But that I could see as potentially an action step that we could take.
Tom?
Yeah, and also I think the city hasn't done a great job touting this program either. And one of the problems, Rand, is we don't have any real newspapers in Somerville anymore. So, that's a big issue, right? So
Billy John will publish it.
Yeah. It's pretty bad when the Cambridge Day is more news in it than the Somerville Journal did, So I think, through LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, the city needs to, and I don't know if there's any funds to do this, but the city should be, touting the program, putting some articles out there saying, what's been going on in the past, just to kind of build some momentum on the program. And actually, I don't know, has the city council ever asked for an update as to what the Jobs Trust has been doing? I can't remember, and they might have, but that's another area, because I like the other day, today actually it was, I saw, and I'm blanking out because today was a crazy day for us, but Mayor Wu announced a big initiative in Boston that had to do with training. And I think it was on, to get more Boston residents into some of the high-tech jobs, the biomed jobs, that type of thing, I think. But there was also, another initiative with, Mary Skipper, who used to be this superintendent here, to make some big changes in Boston, moving their math school and then their CTE program to basically spend a lot of money and expand that program. And I know, Mary, most of that came from what was done here in Somerville with the CTE program and the success that we've had here. So I don't think we've done a good job trying to get that word out as to what we've done. So I agree with Rand on this, as far as there's no buzz about this out there.
Do we, as part of any of the money given, require or ask for like a 6-month or 1-year kind of results kind of thing too, sort of like a measurable return from the recipients, so that we can see, you know, what's their experience and what's their, you know, what worked, what didn't work, how many people benefited, all that sort of thing. If there's some sort of report back that we could get, that might be helpful as well.
Yeah, so I would say some of this is captured in the annual report, which again is, you know, just once a year to show the work that we've been doing. I think that I think that it's always a work in progress, and I think there are a lot of projects that the city is tackling, and I, of course, would never want to discount the importance of the work that we're doing. I just want to recognize that as well. But, you know, please feel free to, you know, email any suggestions that you have, and we'll do our best to try to elevate those to bring a little bit more visibility to this work.
Just on that a little bit, William, I hear you on that, but the city also, they do spend time and resources on certain things that, you know, there's a lot of things that they're focused on a lot of time and resource on. And I think, you know, just to have a balance of, you know, what's out there, because, you know, whether it's affordable housing or, you know, other social issues that they're, you know, you do see a lot of information out there on that. Having a good job and training for those jobs helps solve a lot of those issues, right? So I think this should be one of the priorities the city would have, to make sure that they're selling this program out to the public, and again, to create that buzz, and you know, so figuring out maybe it's a equal distribution of resources on how they can kind of do that, you know. And again, if this, it's always the old squeaky wheel thing. If we don't start complaining about it, it won't happen, right? So, so that's just my thought on it, because I do know the city is very busy. There's a lot going on, but to be honest, the city's got a lot more resources than it's ever had up at City Hall too. So, you know, that's the other thing. So, just to kind of push back a little bit on it.
What Tom said.
So I just say, Tom and Rand, I think this is really helpful feedback for me that I can take back to my colleagues and sort of say, like, what are our opportunities for cross promotion, right? Like if there's a big push on affordable housing, like there are some couple lotteries that just got announced, right? Can there be a joint sort of opportunity, like, hey, there's also funding programs? I think part of the challenge is that we aren't the direct like link to getting into the program. And so I think it's going to be, it will take a little bit of finessing, right, to figure out how do we advertise the opportunities and make sure that our nonprofits are like getting that, we are doing that like, what's our opportunity to do that, right? Because we aren't in direct control necessarily. And so making sure that we're getting the language right, working with our providers to do those sort of citywide blasts when it's the timing's right, and making sure that folks know in the same way that they know that, you know, now's an opportunity to apply for a lottery. Now might be the opportunity to apply for job training. Equally good, equally important lottery to win.
And Rachel, I agree. And I think what you said earlier too is looking at, you know, what the providers are actually doing also. And in the RFPs, what are we requiring them to do? You know, I forget now. You know, it's been a while since I saw an RFP. But are we putting an emphasis on, you know, I know we're telling them, hey, you got to go out and get people, to apply to these programs and things like that. But, maybe some of that needs to be done in coordination with the city, so that, everyone's on the same page as far as when this information will be going out, that type of thing. So I think there might need to be a coordination of efforts between the providers and the city to help make all this happen.
What Tom said.
That's good. That's something we can work on.
Great.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I was just gonna say, is there any other issues?
Oh, sorry, Chair. I'm
Go for
sorry.
it. No, that's all right. Do we have a second?
A second.
All right. Roll call, Tom Bent,
Yes.
Vicky Coates,
Absolutely, yes.
Silvana Dinka, absent. Matt McLaughlin, absent. Colleen Moran, yes. Rachel Ned Carney,
Yes.
Annika Van Eaton has left the building, and Rand Wilson.
Yes.
Great. All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Report.
Great to see you
See you
all.
in July.
Thank you.
Thanks, Colleen.
Bye.
Take
All right.
care.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye.